This episode is presented by Warriors Hope, serving our veterans by helping them reintegrate back into civilian life effectively. Visit them online at warriors-hope.org.
Is that a good enough break?
That's enough
for
of
you?
a pause.
Okay.
That's enough of a pause.
Wait for
We told you
producer to give us-
before,
go ahead.
John doesn't, or Jerrod doesn't like editing, so we always have to give him some sort of a break somewhere. when we
Well,
do
look at
this.
his editing equipment over his shoulder. I mean, come on. How old is that stuff?
I know, right?
That's awesome.
I think I have some of that downstairs. If you need another machine, I think I may have parked.
Right.
When are you
It's
giving
a little
it back to
dusty in the
Elliot now?
diaper.
Right.
But so we have Nick. If you're just joining us on our podcast, thank you for those. Most of mine and Jeff and Jerrod's family that's still logged on. We appreciate you guys just letting it run and letting us think you're listening.
Right.
So you've got the Police Mental Barricade, a survivor's guide to poor law enforcement leadership. And how big is this book? I mean, you told us how long it took you to write it, and we still don't believe you. But how big is this book?
It's 119 pages, which is exactly the attention span that every officer has. 119 pages. After that, it's just you start thinking about.
I'm an infantry
30
guy, so I'll have to read it in about 3 shifts. So,
It's
but I'm
great
looking
for
at-
reading. It's great for toilet bowl
Perfect.
reading.
Well, then I know a few people may be done in the first setting. I've got it up here on Amazon, and I've got to say, it's only $10, folks, from what I'm looking at. And one thing, I don't know if I can say this, but I am anyways. Nick, you mentioned to us before that you're not making a dime off this.
No, I don't make any money off this.
So go ahead and share. What do you do with the money that you get from this?
So what I do is any money that I do get, because I self-published my own book. So any money that I get from this, I'll go on to Amazon and I'll buy, 100 e-copies at a time. And I'll go to Facebook groups, law enforcement Facebook groups. And if I see somebody that's struggling, or I'll even put a post up saying, anybody want a free copy? I'll send them a link to the ebook. It is not, I have cases of this book. I have a stack of them at my coffee shop that I own, and I pass them out. Every time an officer in uniform shows up at my cafe, I give them a free book. I didn't write this book to get rich. I'm not Stephen King. I know I'm not Oprah Winfrey. I'm not trying to get rich off of this book. The book has done very, very well. It's been on the bestseller list since I put it out in July. I'm very humbled by that. I appreciate it. It is definitely something that is a good read for anybody that has just gotten into law enforcement, who is at that 15-year mark in their career. You're at a plateau where you're kind of like, do I want to stick this out for another 5 or 10 years?
So, John, we'll get it for you in 2 years.
Yeah, right.
So, it's important because it's twofold. There is life after law enforcement. And I say that because what drove me to try and take my life when I came back, and I was very, very down because I let this job define me. I let it be who I was. I thought that the badge and the stripes defined who I was, and now that was all gone. And I look back on it, it's silly that I thought that way, but I honestly thought that this was all that I can do. Like, law enforcement was all I can do. And I can tell you that there is life outside of law enforcement. The civilian world, you're worth so much more money. And I hate to put money into the equation, but I will tell you, I spent 20 years of my life away from my family, the sacrifice of family events, for peanuts, because we are conditioned that this is a calling. Like John said, it's a calling.
Right.
You want to do this job. So I spent the first 20 years sacrificing, working extra for us to go to Disney or Universal or, the water heater went. I got to work 2 extra shifts to fix it or replace it or whatever. Now I take all the skill sets that I got in those 20 years. Now I work for the federal government, making a ridiculous amount of money for a fraction of what I did before, which is bonkers to me. Because a year ago, I was crying to myself that there was no life after law enforcement, and that's not the case. So if you're contemplating leaving law enforcement because you're at the end of your rope, but you don't want to make that plunge because you don't think that you can go into the civilian world, I can tell you that I have friends of mine that actually help law enforcement redo their resumes for you to use the skill sets that you learned on the job to transfer over into another profession. So that is a free resource for law enforcement officers that are looking to get out. I'm not encouraging people to leave. I'm not encouraging for you to run for the hills. But if your heart's not in it and your heart's not in the game, I'd rather you leave on your own than in a pine box. Because the moment you start going down that road of being miserable at your job and not liking this job anymore, you're a detriment to yourself and people around you. And I worry about that constantly. But it's a fantastic profession. I had the greatest time of my life being a cop. I would love to do it all over again. But I can't get out of a car without moaning and bitching for like 2 hours.
I feel that.
And John,
really
that's
too.
Yeah, it's a young man's
Right.
game or a young woman's game right now. Like it's not us. Like this beard has so much white hair in it. I mean, it's terrible. I can't do it anymore, and I can't be yelled at and screamed at in my face anymore. So I'd lose my job anyway if I was in law enforcement. But I think if you're toughing it out and you want to stay in this profession, you need to be career focused, and you need to start thinking about infiltrating the command staff, taking promotional processes, taking meaningful leadership courses. Not these
Absolutely.
BS classes that they have, not these BS leadership classes that you take online and they print out a certificate after an hour,
Right.
and then you think you're a leader. The FBI has a leader program, LEEDA. It's a fantastic it took me 2 years to get all 3 classes. And it's a fantastic class if your department will pay for it. It's pretty expensive. It's about $600 a class. I strongly encourage you to take those. They're great leadership classes, and they're taught by real leaders. The FBI doesn't hire instructors that are like, just walking go bags. So those I would definitely recommend if you're going to stay in this profession.
Well, we've spent the last hour talking about the problem, the leadership, how it affects us. What do you say to those that have been in 15 years or 15 days to help them? Okay, we know what the issue is. Everybody knows what the issue is. We've all got our Steves, or what'd you call the females? Stevias.
Take sugar.
Like that.
We give you a heart attack in 20 years.
Right.
And so what do you say to those that are like, okay, yeah, I've got that command leadership. What do I do? I'm at the end of my rope. I'm almost done. Maybe they're even thinking on permanently ending it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What do you have to say to them? I'd like to take the next time that we have and just discuss what can we do to encourage them going forward.
Well, I'll tell you this from somebody that was at the end of their rope and really is on borrowed time. I am very happy every day that I'm still here. But I will tell you this, if I can go back and I could go talk to myself, I would tell you that, one, don't ever be afraid to go to therapy.
Absolutely.
I was one of those guys that was like, screw that. I'm not going to talk to some stranger. They don't know what I'm going through. There are therapists out there that are former cops that are phenomenal. And the ones that aren't former cops, there are therapists that specialize in first responders. I have one. I was truly blessed to find one right out the gate. And the second thing is, don't be afraid to take medication, because what you don't know is you don't have to tell your department squat. You are protected.
Exactly.
You can take medication for depression and all this other stuff. You don't have to tell them shit, and nor should you. And I will tell you, any state it's a federal law. You don't have to tell them that, and that's what I was scared about. I didn't want to take any medication because I didn't want to lose my job. I didn't want to have my gun taken away and all that other stuff. Medication works. You just have to find the right one. I've been through so many different ones that didn't work, and I found one that worked. But you got to stick with it. You got to talk to people. You got to find somebody that you trust, a fellow coworker, because I'm telling you, if you don't think that the person in the locker room next to you is struggling, you are sadly mistaken. Because what I learned after I put out our podcast was, after about the 5th episode, I would walk down the hallways and I couldn't get from my car to the locker room without getting stopped at least twice by officers pulling me into a room and saying, "Hey, can I talk to you for a second?" And I would go, "Yeah, what's up?" They're like, "Hey, I've been listening to your show. Man, I've been feeling the same way for like 2 years now. Like,
wow.
I'm depressed. I can't sleep." So if you don't think that people, and I'll tell you something right now, it's always the ones that talk the biggest smack that are the ones that are struggling the most. Because the ones that would come to me, I would have never in a million years, and they're your tactical Tommies. Those are your guys that are like, dodging paper left and right. Those are the ones that will turn around and message you or text you and say, "Hey, can you meet me in this parking lot?" And you pull up and they're like, "Hey, I've been listening to your show and I agree with what you're saying. Screw the management." And you're like, whoa, hold up. That's not the message. Yeah, it's the message. The main message is,
part of it.
Now that you're not working there, that's the message, right?
Yeah. Well, now I'll tell you the main message is the big middle finger to, like, I love my former agency. I love it so much because it has got to be the litmus test for what not to do as a law enforcement agency. How you treat somebody, how you treat them after they leave, how you embrace. Let me tell you something. If I was the chief of police and one of my guys started a podcast like that, I would embrace it, but I'd control it. And that was the option that I gave him when he pulled me up in his office. I said, if you give me parameters to work within, I'll stick with them. If you tell me no cursing, I won't curse. If you tell me that I can't tell any stories about this department, I'll say they're from another department. But you give me parameters. He could have had an international podcast based out of his department, and he missed that boat.
And he would have gotten.
He missed that boat.
All of that. What'd you call it? Resource.
For the resources, the federal grants, and you have these national. I'm not going to call them out, but you have these national police associations that don't want to tackle this subject. They don't want to tackle mental health with law enforcement. They don't want to touch that third rail. And shame on them. Shame on them. They put these magazines out. They're beautiful. They got this beautiful cover art on the front page. They spend a whole bunch of money on graphics and shit. And you go through these articles, and they're all garbage. They're all circle jerk articles about leadership and about this new gear that's coming out and this new radar unit that's coming out. And none of it tackles that we lost 188 officers in 2019 to suicide, 160 plus in 2020. Now, one article that should be on the front page.
Yeah.
You should put a picture of every officer that killed themselves last year on the front page of your magazine, and you put it right in the chief's faces across the United States, and you say, "Look, these are the people that we lost last year. What are you doing in your agency?" And if you just have a peer support team to check off a box, shame on you. Shame on you.
And that's the thing that gets me from a mental health standpoint is I was shocked when John and I talked about his department. Not going to say names, and I don't want to get John in trouble, but his department actually did not have resources to mental health for a number of years. And I talk to cops now. One of my first, if I find out that I'm talking to a law enforcement, one of my first questions to them is, what is your unit, your department, what do they do for mental health?
Mm-hmm.
I have yet to have one say, "Oh, we have a fantastic mental health," and
Why?
it's like,
Because
what's that?
every department has EAP. John, you have EAP? Employee
We do. I started it.
program. Okay.
I started a peer
So
support program
EAP
3 years ago in our department.
So, other than peer support, do you guys have employee assistance program? Like
No.
where they can call a 1-800 number?
Nope.
I'm shocked. Because almost every agency out there has EAP. And what happens with EAP is every department, well, majority of departments out there have EAP. You call this number and you get three to 5 free therapy sessions.
That
when you're
doesn't
struggling.
do a thing.
Because
I mean, I'm a therapist. I've been doing this for almost 5 years. 3 to 5, I can't even get an individual to open up in 3 to 5.
Well,
Right.
I am a walking example of how EAP doesn't work. Because I had my 3 sessions. And then after that, they cut bait. That's it. That's all you get.
That gets me fired up just hearing that. Because
the thing about it is every department out there, you can start a peer support team. You know how much it costs you?
Zero.
Yeah. All you need to do, and when I hear peer support team, it crawls under my skin, because what that does is you're saying that there is a team of, let's say, 10 to 15 people that when an officer is struggling, they go to this list and they pick from these 10 to 15 people. And the majority of departments, the people that are on that list, I wouldn't trust them with my dog's secrets, let alone my secrets. A peer support program should be, every officer in the department should be trained on peer support. Because
absolutely,
when I'm struggling, I want to pick my own person. I don't want to go to a piece of paper and be like, well, he's an asshole, she's an asshole, she's a liar, he tells everybody secrets. And then you get down on the list and you got to pick the lesser of the idiots, the lesser of the Steves. You know?
You're picking your poison.
Yeah, I want to turn around. I work with John every day. We're on nights together. You know, we bang doors together. You know, we piss off the bridge together. We do all this silly shit together. I want to turn around and I want to be able to go to my sergeant and say, hey, listen, I just want to let you know that I've picked John as my peer support person, going through some stuff. I don't want to say what it is, but I'm talking to John. That's it. Boom. That's it. That's peer support.
And then they need a policy where they can't go to John and be like, what is he telling you? And start a political thing there. Because as a therapist, I am bound by, I have to tell you, the only ways I can break your confidentiality are for 3 different ways, you know, and then it's abuse, you know, homicide, suicide, and court records, or court subpoena. You know, that's the only 3 ways I'm going to break it. But when it comes to peer support, if you've got a Steve up there, he's going to come down and start. So, you know, I mean, this gets me completely fired up. It's what caused me to go out with a friend, and we started a nonprofit together for veterans. It's what caused me to get into, as you know, the Surviving Danger Close, for the transcripts, Surviving Danger Close, and it's to get with them and, you know, see the lack of mental health ability. And we talked about this in our last podcast, and I think it's the one I sent to you, Nick, where, you know, you're working in your own jurisdiction. You know, I'm a veteran. I was in Iraq. I was in Iraq for 15 months. Okay, I don't have to look out my front door and see Iraq anymore. I see my house, my property. You know, I see paved roads. You know, I don't see anything that's reminding of it. You guys are out there on the beat every day shopping. When you're off, you're in your beat. When you're on duty, you're in your beat. And John and I went by and he was talking about different houses he's been to. And that's what gets me just frustrated and fired up for you, because 3 to 5 sessions.
Yep.
How world are you going to talk to a perfect stranger for 3 to 5 sessions? That's only 3 hours. You're not going to tell them a dang thing.
No.
And I tell my clients every time that they sit down with me, my job is to earn your trust, and we're going to be doing this for a while. Because I have not had, I think, one person came into my office, sat down, and just went down, and then I had to do a crisis intervention because of how down and how low this person was at that time. Besides that one time, you're talking 6 months. And don't be scared by 6 months. I am a mental health profession. It's what I do, social work and counseling. And I see a therapist once a week, because if you've ever met therapists, it's like teachers who can't teach. Crazy people are therapists. We need our own crazy people to talk to. And even though I'm in this profession, I looked up my therapist credentials, and back in history before I ever met with her, it still took a good part of 6 months for me to be like, okay, you know what? Okay, let's talk. 3 to 5 sessions is an absolute joke.
And that's the thing is I'm very, very hopeful, or at least my hope and pray. I hope and pray that as a profession we take mental health very seriously. I think it's sad that when you scream on the radio that you're under fire and that you're being shot at, we'll send every officer from here to California your way. But the moment you raise that flag up and you say you got mental health issues, it's a
gun, give me your badge.
Ghost town, man. It's sad. It's sad.
The only person talking to is the one that's like this, because, okay, give me the gun, give me the badge. So, okay, we've got peer support. We kind of got sorry, I took you guys off a tangent that just, that just gets under my skin. But so we've got, John Doe out there. Sorry, John. First thing I could come up with. Not our John, but you got John Doe, who's a rookie. He's got the best flashlight. He's got the best tack gear, because that's what they said he needed. He's just cut loose, and he realizes that his sergeant, his lieutenant, is an absolute Steve. All right, Nick, what do you got for him? What can they do?
I'll tell you from experience. Mind what you say.
Yes.
Don't start a podcast when you're only 15 days in.
Don't start a podcast. That's. I will tell you that.
Coffee shop. So I'm not arguing too much with that.
It's true. Led to a lot of different things. Detectives visited, criminal charges. So I'll tell you this. Listen, your supervisors and your commanders aren't forever. You change supervisors and commanders like you change underwear, hopefully. The dinosaurs eventually wind up working themselves out of the system. But the thing that you need to realize is that we're in a profession where unfortunately you can't speak your mind. Even though you're right, you can't speak your mind. You need to mind your P's and Q's. From somebody that didn't, I can tell you, you should. When you are at your most frustrating point, there's great shows like the one you're listening to right now, where you can listen and get some great ideas as far as how to cope with it, how to get through it, and understand that that's not the only department out there. So if your lifestyle or your home life is being affected by it, and you're that early on your career, trust me from somebody that tried to make a round peg fit through a square hole. At some point, you have to do what's best for your family and what's best for your own mental health.
Absolutely.
And it's okay to pull that ripcord and leap into something else. Another agency, another profession, but you don't have to put up with that. Like it's there's a lot of places out there that are hiring right now. It's an employees market right now.
It absolutely
John can tell you that.
is.
Yeah,
And that's just it. We're not getting any applicants, and the applicants you do get, there's a reason why they haven't been hired yet. You just have to find it. And even for these people that maybe change departments or are thinking about it, our career is it's obviously getting the spotlight right now. Part of it is based on leadership that set the example in writing policies and directives as far as trainings and guidelines. But with all the violence, substance abuse use is huge in first responders. Suicides, like we said, are skyrocketing. The call volume, because we're short, we were talking briefly before we got on the air. We're understaffed. It doesn't matter who you talk to. If you can find a fully staffed police department with quality officers and leaders, it's a rarity. And there's a reason. If you find it, there's a reason nobody's leaving it. Okay. Okay, you can read between the lines for that on yourself. Scary is just that, with the job the way it is, there's enough stressors, the violence, the drugs, suicides are out of control. At some point, I would hope to see leaders and leaderships being held accountable. There was a certain police department in the state of New York that had just an astronomical amount of suicides that even from Michigan, I was like, dude, what the hell is going on over there, bro? Why is nobody looking at that saying, what the hell? What about this job in this place that's driving these people to commit suicide? And here's one thing that I also believe, and it's been proven, the suicide numbers are not what's being reported. Because somewhere out there, and I'm going to go ahead and say that there's a good officer, a good leader that's saying, even though that may be a suicide, I know damn well that if I label and classify this as a suicide, the family's not going to get any freaking benefits.
Yeah.
So there are accidental discharges. People, we handle firearms every damn day.
Yep.
Ain't nobody cleaning a gun with a bullet in the chamber. Come on. Ain't happening. But I can guarantee you, if you scrub the numbers, you'll find them.
Yep.
And why is that? I'm trying to excuse me, I'm trying to remember the name of the group, but they focus on the officers' family that are victim of suicide. Those officers that are kind of blackballed from their agencies and like they never existed.
Yep.
And this group changes that. They want to recognize not how they died, how they freaking did their job, how they live. We talked about how thin this blue line is. This blue line is so damn thin, it's almost non-existent anymore. We eat our own. There are leaders that will sit there and pick and pick and pick on officers until the point that the job and the office gets them to the point to contemplate suicide. And that's an absolute disgrace. When we talk about failed to lead and failed to supervise, I want that held accountable. And how do you hold somebody accountable when they don't provide services? That's a tough one, right? And so this is something that leadership across the board is going to have to seriously look at. Now, I know you don't like the term peer support, but this is one thing where I do have to give a shout out to my boss. And I'm not going to name him or my agency, but he was absolutely, I came to him with the idea and go for it. Tell me what you need, we'll get it. And I like what's unique about our situation is that our area is so rural, Nick, that there is no full-time fire department out here, right? These people, including my fire department, we live truly in the communities that we serve. We're picking up our neighbors at car accidents that are now deceased. I hate to even bring this up, but how I met my new neighbors was to go to their doorstep and tell them that their son had passed away in a car accident. This is the reality we live in, and not a damn thing for anybody. So, that is something that we were able to combine multi disciplines and get everybody involved, and how I approached the fire service was a hell of a lot easier, I think, than law enforcement, and quite sent to all the fire chiefs and said, here's the issue. And every one of them bought into it, and the law enforcement is slowly buying into it. And even the ambulance service, they're everybody's recognizing it. And when I got the ball rolling, everybody was like, you're going to be so busy with the millennials, you're never going to have any time to actually do your job. And I said, well, we'll see. And within the first year, I never had one millennial come to me for help. It was all the old guys.
Yep.
And they all admitted that, there was this call, there was that call. I wish this was available sooner. Now, I know damn well that as we progress, I'm going to use us as the examples, Nick. If we progress to the point that we were finally someday in charge to make decisions, how do we sit back and say, I wish there was a program like that when we were young officers, and yet don't investigate how to set said program?
Yep.
So
I think the big thing is that veterans need to step up and talk to newer officers less than 5 years on, and say, hey, like you said, the ones that come forward and say, hey, I've been here for 15, 20 years and I struggle with this and I have this issue. And that's the problem is that the vets don't stand up and roll call and say, hey, listen, I go through it, guys. You've only been on the job for a short period of time. I'm here. Let me tell you. Like when I go talk to other agencies and I talk about peer support and I tell my story, the moment I walk in the room and I introduce myself, the first story I tell them is the day I had the gun in my hand and I was going to kill myself. Because I want people to know from the beginning that this is who you're talking to.
Right.
I looked down the barrel of my Glock and I saw that bullet and it was going to happen. And I'm not ashamed to say it. I'm not embarrassed by it. I don't care. I don't care what people feel about me telling that. But if it stops another person or somebody is about to do it, that's fine. That's fine with me.
Right.
I think
that's who we are.
Yeah.
I think we get called to a scene. We get called to a scene. We have no idea what the hell happened. We start with the here and now. And now we got to work ourselves back. How did we get to this point? So I think it's absolutely great that you start off your story that way. Look, here I am, Nick, 20-year vet. I was contemplating suicide. I had that damn gun in my mouth, or I had the gun in my head. Oh shit! Like this dude's for real. Now tell me how you got to that point, Nick. And that's the honest conversation. I'm tired of all the stigma, all that crap.
Yep. This
is how we end it. Open conversations. Dustin and I talk about it on our show that we're pretty open. I'm an open book. I also go to counseling. I have taken medications. Well, right. Don't make fun of my disability. All right. I'm handicapped. Okay. But those are the things that's what helps end the stigma, is talking about it. I don't want to say normalizing it, but I don't want to make it so unique that I feel uncomfortable talking about it. We have to normalize it and realize, like, shit, I'm embarrassed by it. Like, man, we can go into a house and fix somebody's problems within 15 minutes of being there right now. I can point you to all the resources, everything you need, whether it be the women's shelter, the homeless shelter, whatever it takes. But if it's one of our people coming to us, we're like, oh shit, I don't know what to do. Like, the book says I got to take your gun.
Yep.
Why?
Yep.
This is somebody that we trust with everybody else's lives. I trust with mine, but yet we're not willing to step up and say, shit, dude. All right, let's talk about this. Is there something I can help you with?
That statistic.
Yep. And the bigger thing right now that is not being looked at is our retirees, our people that are just getting off the job. The suicide rate
I've
for
said
them.
It before. I'm scared to retire.
Well, I'll tell you this. I never very rarely did I have problems sleeping when I was on the job. Very rarely. Can go to a triple homicide, wouldn't bother me.
Right.
Since I've been out of the profession, since April of last year, I have not got a good night's sleep. Maybe 3 hours a night I get. Because all that stuff, 20 years of nonstop PTSD, nonstop violence, all that stuff that you put in the back of your head that you're just like, well, I'll deal with that later. Well, later is now. All those horrible scenes,
Right.
all those things that you see, all those smells, all those things, they all come back. And I used to go to a DOA and order a DoorDash and have Chipotle deliver it to the place while I was waiting for the
I
coroner.
love that one, by the way.
Yeah, I do that. I used to do that all the time. Now I could say it because I'd get in trouble if I was still on the job. I don't recommend you do that. But if you got to do it
for our
report,
rookies, don't do that.
Yeah.
Right.
The only problem with that is what happens after Chipotle.
Right.
Right.
Well,
And
there may have been a
I-
homicide that we were working, and the crime lab was like, "Yo, is anybody home? Because I seriously got to take a shit."
I've done it, man.
Yeah,
I-
yeah, he's not dead in the
I-
bathroom. Go ahead.
And I was nasty. I wouldn't flush because when CSI would come, I'd be like, I just want to let you know I took a shit in the bathroom and I didn't disturb the crime scene in case you want to test the water for poison.
Jesus.
I'm nasty.
Yeah.
Hey, listen,
we need more
stuff
mental
that you
health.
don't see behind the scenes before your
Right.
loved one gets to the funeral home. All right, this is the stuff.
Right.
all
Right.
Yeah.
If you see rice on
Yeah.
their face, that's the reason why.
Jesus.
So do you ever have
Oh, man.
somebody reach out to you, Nick, that they said, "Hey, I'm that Steve you're talking about"?
Oh, fuck, all
All
the
right.
time, man, all the time. You talking about the
So-
one that's lazy? How about
The one what?
the Steve that we named it after was a Steve that worked at my old agency, and we had to constantly tell him, no, it's not you, it's not you, it's you.
So what do you
It's
say to
you.
those that are listening to this or listen to your podcast, the Roll Call Room podcast, and they're like, "Dang, that's what I do."
Mm-hmm.
Besides just say change,
Yeah.
what do you got for them?
That's a fantastic question. I'll tell you this. It's something that you can do, and it's totally free. Go on SurveyMonkey, okay, and think of 5 ridiculously intrusive questions that are not going to violate HR or any of your directives, and send them to your rank and file, the one that you work with or that work for you. So if you're an officer, send it to your squad and say, hey, listen, right after roll call, get them all together, say, hey, listen, I'm doing this self-evaluation on myself. I'd really appreciate it. It's all confidential. It won't log who you are, but I appreciate it if you do this survey for me. And let me tell you something. You're gonna have to do a humble check. You're gonna have to stay humble.
Absolutely.
You can check yourself a little bit, and you have to understand that cops are brutal. They're brutal. But you know what? You want to be a good leader? Because when I was a sergeant, I would do self-evaluation. Every year I'd get an evaluation from my lieutenant. I would do a self-evaluation. I would have my people rate me and say, hey, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing right? What can I do better? What do you like that I do? What do you not like that I do? And you'd be surprised when you give people that ability that work with you or work underneath you. You know, some of them are going to be clowns. Yeah, some of them are going to be clowns. They're going to be like, smell better, or, get a haircut, or, be less funny, or, zip your pants.
We told Jerrod to get a haircut, and then he just shaved the sides. So
That's all.
That's all I did.
Dude,
we
that's
did the
what I'm
Survey
going
Monkey for
So
him.
don't let them get on you, bro. I'm going to be you in like 3 months, so don't worry.
He's
about
the oldest
it.
hipster I know.
Yeah. Yeah, and let me tell you something. Best part about not working in law enforcement anymore is I will never shave again, ever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I lost a shaving sponsorship because of this.
Oh no.
Yeah, but did you pick up a beard?
I do.
sponsorship,
I have
though? So
fantastic beard sponsorship.
Well,
But
have to get their contact information
he would
afterwards. Jerrod's already on his
just for
way.
me.
I got you
Right.
covered. They're out of Texas. Guy's awesome. He's
Oh.
former military too. So
Oh, even better.
But so SurveyMonkey is fantastic because it's free.
It is.
You know, you get that survey back. It's incredible the stuff that you can learn from people, and make sure that it's not all negative on yourself, because nobody wants to hear everything negative. So, you know, throw a good one in there. What do you think that I do that's good?
Yeah.
You know, what project have I had where you thought was great, and stuff like that. Making constructive, and whatever you do, don't make it yes or no answers. Make these MFers fill out some stuff.
Yeah.
Work
right?
for it.
They can put some work into it.
And if
you know?
you're
Yeah, you know,
Right.
good questions are blank, then you really need to go back to the drawing board and see why you're
Reevaluate.
Well, and here's the other thing.
Yeah.
If you have a squad of 6 and only one person fills out that survey, you got a major problem on your hand.
You're on
You got a major problem.
your
That
own,
means-
man.
Yeah, that means either they don't trust you, or 2, they're scared of you. And let me tell you something. Fear as a leader will only get you so far.
Mhm.
It'll only get you so far. You can be feared all day long, but when it comes into a school shooting or an active shooter, nobody's going to listen to the
Yeah.
guy that they fear.
They're not-
They're going to follow.
They're
the
not following
leader.
you anywhere.
Yeah, they're not going to follow you in. And that's the thing. I always tried to lead by example when I was a sergeant. Whenever stuff came downhill, I would turn around and say to my
Stop.
group, you never ever as a leader, never ever turn around as a leader and say, well, you know what? That's the way they want it upstairs. I don't agree with it, but that's the way that they want it. And if you do that stuff, don't do that. Don't be that guy or girl. You turn around and you say, hey, listen, guys, girls, this is for the good of the order. And guess what?
This is
I'm gonna
what we're
do
doing.
it with you.
Yep.
This is what we're doing, but I'm going to do it with you. So we're all doing it together. We're going to eat this shit sandwich together. Yum, 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 yum. And then you do it. You just do it. So that's my advice. If you're a leader or you're a brand new officer, you know, you're going to get some chuckleheads that are going to be like, oh, survey monkey. You know,
They're scared.
oh, well, don't do it then. Yeah, don't do it then. But I'm telling you, it's the easiest way of doing it, other than like a, you know, suggestion box.
Yeah.
You know,
We
But I
had one
suggest
of those
that
once.
in boxes.
It lasted
Yeah, we
like
had-
2.5 days.
yeah, my chief in my
Yeah.
old agency, we had a suggestion box, and it was stupid.
Did you fill it all up the
I-
first day or no?
I wish that I can go in there one more time to fill that box up, but I can guarantee you it'll never be used again.
Yeah. Because there's the other thing that also for me from the veteran standpoint that shows you who's the good and who's the Steve leader is the ones that say, hey, I forgot your evaluations are due tomorrow. Fill this out.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, don't be that leader, because they're not going to respect you because you're not taking the time to say how good of a job they're doing. Where do they need to improve? Okay, listen, we've all had some sort of evaluation done on us. It sucks. You got to hear what you're doing wrong. Nobody likes to hear that. But don't be the one that puts it on them to say what they're doing wrong or right. And I remember I got to a squad and they had the evals all coming up. My NCOER was coming up, and it's like, really, I got to fill this out myself? Are you freaking kidding me? And, you know, it happens in every business, every organization. Somebody says, hey, fill out your own evaluation. That's the Steve move that really
The worst
off.
thing to do is to sit down with one of your subordinates and you use a cookie cutter evaluation. That would get under my. And then you go through like I've been on the receiving end. You go through the eval and it's got the wrong name in it because they
Been there, done that.
The name, and it's the most frustrating. It's the most demeaning thing because you work hard for an entire year. All you got to do, Sarge, Lieutenant, all you got to do is write that evaluation once a year. it doesn't take much for you to start with a blank piece of paper, you lazy Steve. Like, it doesn't take much, but I agree with you. But what I would do with my evaluations is I would say, because I always knew when eval time was coming up, I would say, pick 3 things that you're most proud of that you've done in the last 3 years, in the last year. 3 cases. So 3 arrests that you've had, 3 community projects that you've had, 3 things that you've done over the last 12 months. I want to make sure that that gets into your evaluation. And you'd be surprised that some people come up, and it might be something that you forgot about as a supervisor.
Or something that you thought was small, and they're, it's right here for them.
And you know what? Well, it's never too late to print out a certificate of appreciation.
Yeah.
And I know that's a millennial generation thing, but I'll tell you, you know what? We don't do the job for the accolades. I got a tote full of certificates and gorgeous looking trophies and crap sitting in my basement right now. But it's just the idea of somebody recognizing the sacrifice that your family makes for you to be able to get that award. I have to emphasize that, which is don't sacrifice your family time for this profession. I can't say that enough. You blink your eyes and your 1-year-old is 18 years old. I'm living proof of that.
I feel
you only have so many. Yeah, and you don't realize it till you're out of the profession, because then you look back and you're like, like all those graduations and all those recitals and stuff. You can't go back on that, No. If you have a choice between picking the department and family time, for God's sake, please pick family time.
Right.
Please. The department will always be there. If it's not there, there's another department that'll be there. Don't worry. That's my advice.
And that is something that I bet is probably going to be transcribed and highlighted.
Right.
He said, don't pick the department.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people go into this kind of job where they're saying, I'm going to put my life on the line. I've got to be there for my guys. If there's a call, I've got to take that overtime. No, you don't have to. As a guy that's a veteran that is in the mental health, I had every opportunity to say, hey, I got to be there for my clients. I got to be there for my fellow veteran. I've got to. And then I've really, in the last 2 years, maybe even less than that, depending on, how far my wife can remember, is, my wife is like, yeah, you're doing great things out there. But, I'm like, who's this? Oh, that's my kid. That's taller now because I'm spending so much time out there. And I'm sure it's the same way, just on a larger scale with you guys, where you've got to take that time, have time for your family, have time for yourself. Self-care, we all hate that term, but it's one of the most vital terms. I don't know why that has been considered an evil term in a lot of industries. Yeah. And it's like, you've got to take care of yourself, or you are not going to have the mental fortitude.
A meaningful.
You're going to.
Correct.
Yes.
I see a cat.
It's.
Cat. I see a cat.
Yeah.
I see a cat.
It frequents.
You said something, now she's gone. Yeah.
I have allergies. My throat is closing up.
Right.
When you talked about
around the background, I have cats.
Right. When you talked about supervisors handing out their evaluations and having their subordinates do them, there's nothing quicker, or nothing, how do I want to say it? There's no action that can nullify someone as quick as that. You don't take someone's worth or value, a subordinate of yours value enough, or you don't respect it enough that you couldn't even do my evaluation.
Yep. Whenever I
good, bad, or otherwise.
Yeah, I would just turn around and say to my supervisor, when I would see the wrong name on there, I would be like, I don't even want to see it. Am I getting a raise? And they're like, yeah. And I was like, just scan it and email.
Good.
Like, it just deflates you. You're just like, whatever. I don't care. Like, it's the meaning.
There's no value.
And I took that when I was a sergeant. I took that, like, I would always turn around and do their evaluations on my day off. So I didn't have any distractions. I started with a blank piece of paper and I just started typing away. You know, there's no radio going off on there. You know, there's nobody running in your office and you know, talking to you. You just focus on them. They deserve your undivided attention for an hour. You know, you're not writing getting burger dress, for God's sake. You know,
right?
Just do your job. Do your job, Steve or Stevia.
I've always hated how evaluations are treated like just a whimsical kind of, oh yeah, let's just get this done. This evaluation follows them. That follows you your career. So for your entire career, Nick, you had somebody with a different name.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is I've got a million certificates with the wrong name, with my last name's misspelled.
Well, look at
there's nothing more.
It's not exactly easy. Just saying.
Well, Jerrod's not easy either. You know, Life Saving Award. You come up on stage, you turn the certificate around, and you're like, "Great thing I saved their life." You know, like,
right.
Least you could do is proofread my last name, for God's sake. You know, please.
Now you can just hand them a book and say, "Hey, it's written right here." Just
my chief got a copy of the book. I don't know if he read it though, but
did you sign it for
him?
him?
It was great starter fire for him.
Yeah,
right.
I sent it next day air for him.
No, you didn't.
I really did send it to him. I sent it to him with a nice note.
I'm sure you did.
Oh yeah.
You should ask him to write the foreword for your next book.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
I did get a message, Nick. Real quick, I want to read this message. I'm not going to say who it's from, but it says, "Where the hell was this book 15 years ago?"
I don't know if the book would have been as well received 15 years as it is right now.
Yeah.
I tell you, I go on Amazon every once in a while. I don't go on very frequently. I just go on there and I look at. But the funny thing is I've actually bought my own book, like an actual physical copy from Amazon, because I wanted to have it delivered to my house because I just thought that it was the coolest thing in the world. Sure. And yeah, I know it's total Steve move. My kids made fun of me for like 3 days. So what's funny is not funny, but it definitely shows that there are people that are still reading it, and it is very prevalent right now in our profession because it's still on the top of the list. Like, and I got to be honest with you, it's literally my journal. That's how this book came about. My therapist was after me for months to write stuff down, and I was like, I'm not a 16-year-old girl. I'm not gonna write a diary. And
we must have the same therapist,
right?
Yeah. And I forgot.
He had a movie coming out. It's called The Notebook.
My real name is Nicholas Clark. But I forget what happened. There was a series of when I left my agency. There was a series of events that happened where it was just every day they were doing something. And I finally just sat down one morning and just kept writing. And I just remember finishing chapter 1 and giving it to my wife and having her read it. And she was like, "You got to keep writing this." And then it turned into a book. So, but the thing is the second book is not coming as easy as the first one. The second one, I've been working on that for 3 months and I'm still on the same paragraph. It's not coming out, like my anger is not there like it used to be. It's more of like, I get to it when I get to it, But I definitely think that if you're struggling or you think you're the only one out there dealing with that stuff, check out the book. And if you can't get the book or you just can't swing it right now, you reach out to me and I'll send you a free e-copy. You can read it on online.
That's awesome, Nick.
That's awesome. So go ahead, plug your book again, your website. I don't want to mess it up and send them somewhere, that's cool. Not exactly nicely rated.
My book is called How to Love Me. No. It's called, Police Mental Barricade: A Survivor's Guide to Poor Law Enforcement Leadership. You can get it on Amazon or anywhere where books are sold, including Target and Walmart.
Oh, you made it here in Walmart.
I know.
Into the big ones now.
No, what's funny is that they won't put the cover of the book on Walmart or Target.com. It's hilarious.
I heard you say that. It's offensive.
Yeah, it's too offensive.
Yeah.
Provocative.
Provocative.
Yeah. I was like,
All right, I gotta
screw you.
see this book now. All right, I'm gonna look it up.
I feel like Will
You
Ferrell.
got-
What's
you got
provocative even
Fabio-
mean?
you got Fabio on the cover or something?
Yeah, it's a little provocative, but you can also go on rollcallroom.com. Yep, it's too provocative. A cop with a gun to his head, but it's about mental health, so we can't show stuff like that. And I
You have a firearm, so
You might give
our
them the
Walmart's removed all their
idea.
firearms.
yeah, exactly.
That's the
Exactly.
one
You're
thing
a
that I
neighbor.
thought of earlier was, people come up all the time. How can you talk about suicide on your podcast? How can you talk about suicide when you speak somewhere? Won't that give somebody the idea? No, I'm going to tell you right now, if they got the idea, they're not going to get the idea because somebody discussed it.
Yeah.
If it's already there, they're going to be coming up and saying, hey, somebody else had that idea. That's who I need to talk to.
Yep. I think more people need to come forward and talk about it. There's a lot more people out there that are struggling, and they just need to come forward. And I think there are some public figures in law enforcement that need to come forward and speak the truth. And I think that would bring some legitimacy to the mental health issue. So,
Yeah.
I couldn't
yeah,
agree more,
so
Nick.
yeah, bud, guys,
We
Yeah.
we appreciate
Wrapping
you
up our
coming
show.
on. We have been Roll Call Room podcast. Mike number 2 is on there for you're keeping this guy a little bit longer from what I'm seeing.
yeah, I go through mics pretty quick.
Go through.
And then you have a coffee house. It's the Roll Call Room Coffee House, correct?
It's rollcallroomcafe.com.
Okay. See, that's why I wanted you to go through your stuff because I'd
Yeah.
screw it up.
No,
Roll
no
Call
worries.
Cafe. If you've got some commanders that you want to send a special gift to, let them know.
I have a special roast called Commander Tiers. You can send it to a very special commander, shipped very discreetly. It's fantastic. The label is amazing, and will bring joy to that special Steve Commander of you.
Thank you for listening to the second part of this episode, presented by Warriors Hope. After we were cut off, we discussed more about Nick's business and his book, Police Mental Barricade. Police Mental Barricade is what every officer needs to listen to and be prepared for poor leadership and how to navigate through the tough times the law enforcement profession is in. This book will help you recognize toxic leaders, cowardly leaders, and exceptional leaders. Look for this in paper and as an audiobook through Amazon.com. And visit the Roll Call Room Cafe if you're ever in Dumfries, Virginia, and check out the Roll Call Room podcast.